Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Let's talk about XRP and the future of money. Where is this coming from? We'll take a look at this piece from the Daily Hodl. This is a good piece. It's titled, Bitcoin and Crypto Clash. Robini, Wright, Pierce, Lee, and Vase debate the future of money. That's like, I don't know if you all know who all four of those people are. We're going to get into it. Or five, I guess. That's not necessarily a room I want to be in, right? Now, mind you, I'm not an XRP maximalist, but you're talking about primarily, not exclusively actually, but you're talking about some hardcore either Bitcoin maximalists, or in the case of somebody like Robini, just anti-Bitcoin, anti-crypto, plain and simple, period, that's it. So I'm going to be running through this rather interesting piece from the perspective of an XRP community member and share with you my thoughts on it. And then I got this piece from the Daily Hodl, and it's titled, Crypto Titan Reveals Massive Institutional Interest in Bitcoin and Ethereum, plus updates on Ripple, XRP, and Litecoin. Now, as far as the Crypto Titan reveals massive institutional interest, I talked about that recently. It was about grayscale, so I'm not going to be covering that portion of it. Instead, when I get to this, I'm going to jump down just to the part having to do with Ripple and XRP. And spoiler alert, MoneyGram's in there too. And then the last piece I'm going to cover in this video, it's also from Daily Hodl. It's titled, Crypto Influencer Says Bitcoin is More Trustworthy Than Status Quo, calls cryptography's asymmetric warfare a game changer. Now, before we get rolling here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you would please delicately tap that like button and consider subscribing to the Moon Lambo channel, because I think that would be a wise thing to do. We just have a gosh darn ton of fun around here, don't we? Let's jump to this first piece here. A panel of some of Bitcoin's biggest proponents and detractors is wrapped up at the CC Forum conference in London. Nouriel Roubini, and by the way, actually, before I even read further, I pulled this guy up. So this guy, just wait till you see what he has to say anyway, but here he is on Twitter. So he has a massive following, 465,000 followers on Twitter. He describes himself here on his Twitter page. Stern School NYU professor, Roubini Macro Associates CEO, co-founder, Crisis Economics author. And it's funny, he puts on here he's anti-crypto, and this is true. CoinDesk Most Influential Awards. Which, okay, thank you, FunDesk. Yeah, so he's known as Dr. Doom, ominous name, yes, indeed. I tell you, this is one boisterous individual. I haven't used that word in a decade. Boisterous. So anyway, Nouriel Roubini, Brock Pierce, Bobby Lee, Tone Vase, and Craig Wright debated the future of Bitcoin, altcoins, fintech, and finance. Roubini began the conference with a bang, offering his signature take on Bitcoin and blockchain technology. The Economist says he's no defender of the current financial status quo, but he thinks the fintech revolution will ultimately have nothing to do with crypto assets. He thinks that he doesn't know anything about what Ripple's doing or how XRP can be utilized as a bridge currency for cross-border payments, but I'll tell you what, he sure has some strong opinions. You know, and look, I'll tell you, as far as his opinions, I'm about to read a quote from him, but as far as his opinions on Bitcoin, I get skepticism around Bitcoin because conceptually, when people are thinking of Bitcoin, pretty much everybody on the planet, just by and large, from what I can tell, is really thinking about the concept of a cryptocurrency replacing fiat currency. And again, maybe that could happen at some point, but you might be looking at that taking hold decades from now, perhaps. And it's funny, that's why I've cited on this channel many times. I think it's interesting that the first use case ever proposed for a cryptocurrency, and it was proposed by Satoshi Nakamoto and Bitcoin, was was a peer-to-peer cash system. No central authority, all cool stuff, but it's just funny to me that the first idea for a cryptocurrency ever proposed might be the last ever actually adopted, if that even happened. But here's a quote from Nouriel Roubini. I'm not a defender of the traditional financial system. I wrote a whole book analyzing the role the financial system had in the financial crisis. Excessive leverage, excessive destaking, not enough coverage, not enough liquidity, so I'm the first critic of it. The question is, what are the solutions to it? I would say that some of the inefficiencies of the financial system are being addressed by what I call the fintech revolution. He's still... Did you hear that sentence I just read? Seriously. And he's still anti-crypto. Think about it. Here's what he said. Some of the inefficiencies of the financial system are being addressed by what I call the fintech revolution. Yeah, Ripple, XRP, that's a huge portion of it. Anyway, the fintech revolution has pretty much nothing to do with crypto or blockchain. Oh my God. Oh my God. He didn't say, oh my God, I'm throwing in the oh my gods. And then he continues. It's a combination of AI, big data, and IoT. With Bitcoin, you can do 5 transactions per second when Visa can do 25,000 transactions per second. You have things in China like Alipay or WeChat Pay that billions of people use every day for transactions. There's a lot of talk within blockchain and crypto about revolutionizing financial intermediation. Cryptocurrency is a misnomer. They're not a unit of account. They're not a means of payment. They're not a store of value. If for every good and service I have to use a different token, I don't know the relative price of 2 goods. I have to be able to have a single numerator to know the price of a can of Coke as opposed to a can of Pepsi. If there's a Coke coin and a Pepsi coin, it's chaos. So people talking about tokenization and having a token for everything is returning to the Stone Age. Even the Flintstones had a more sophisticated financial system than crypto. They had shell dollars, and they were using them to avoid the barter, while you guys want to go back to the barter. Oh my God. So he doesn't seem to see a world of potential interoperability. And I will say that part, it's a fair critique. I don't think that you need a new form of money for everything. I think when I think more so about the idea of a more liquid world, which I'm a fan of, really just the idea of getting rid of all of the paperwork, think about the buying and selling of commercial or real estate or residential real estate. It doesn't matter. Think about all of the costs associated with that. But what if you could make it easier to get in and out of just even owning a portion of a property, for example? And so, it's not that people are going to need to use that as money, but you can have a world that's substantially more liquid. But the way that he's seeing it, as if everything that you tokenize is going to be used in the place of money, I don't see that. I just think that, yes, the world will be more liquid, and that can be beneficial. But if you own a portion of a property, for example, I don't know that you're frequently going to want to be exchanging that, because if you purchased it in the first place, you probably have different intentions for it than how you'd get in and out of a fiat currency, for example, via spending on a daily basis. So to me, I get what he's saying. It's a fair point to bring up. But I don't see that being the way that the future is going to unfold if indeed tokenization occurs en masse and we're in a much more liquid world. But again, I actually will say fair point on that. Then the piece continues here. Bitcoin bull and veteran Wall Street trader Tone Vays, wearing a shirt that read, "We are all Satoshi except for Craig S. Wright," which is funny to me, while sitting next to self-proclaimed Bitcoin inventor Craig Wright, agreed with Rubini's assessment of the issues in the traditional financial system. But Vays thinks Bitcoin is the solution. Here's a quote from Tone Vays, who literally does not understand, or at least claims to not understand, why XRP is useful in the least. And here's a quote from Tone Vays. "The biggest problem is the easy money printing of governments all over the world, and Bitcoin fixes that. But just Bitcoin, not S-word coins, not Ethereum, not other cryptocurrencies, not fake Bitcoin forks." Fake Bitcoin forks, as opposed to the real Bitcoin forks, right? Right, Tone? All right. Then he continues, "Bitcoin helps to fix that, and so that's what I'm looking forward to. As far as black swans that Nuriel mentioned, yes, they're there, and they come up more and more often." Okay, so there you go. Bitcoin maximalist Tone Vays. Doesn't matter that different people want different things from different cryptocurrencies, and different cryptocurrencies have different technical attributes that would make them more amenable for solutions in various use cases. Never mind all of that. It's Bitcoin or bust. There you go. Bitcoin maximal. I hate maximalism so much. It's just from an intellectual standpoint, it's uninsightful, it's primitive, and it's useless. Maximalism will never win the day. I don't care what your coin is. And the piece continues, Vays and Wright clashed on whether governments will begin to find new ways to seize crypto assets. On that point, Bobby Lee, co-founder and former CEO of China's first crypto exchange, BTCC, and computer scientist Craig Wright became unlikely allies over the notion that governments can and will increasingly challenge the idea of cryptocurrencies being censorship resistant as they find ways to seize crypto assets. Says Lee, quote, "In China, real estate transactions are controlled by the government, so imagine if you have real estate on the blockchain and you own the private key to that unit or to that allocation of real estate on the blockchain. But you having the private keys to it is meaningless because the actual real estate could be confiscated. It could be forbidden to be transferred to someone else. So in the end, when you use blockchain and private keys to represent external assets, you still have that trust issue. And if you can't solve that trust issue, then it's meaningless. Bitcoin itself is not based on anything else. It's not backed by anyone else." And it's not, look, I understand the point, and it's going to be different from country to country, geographic region to geographic region, but we're talking about removing inefficiencies. That alone makes it useful, but I get the point being made by Lee. Anyway, so here's what Wright says. Here's a quote. "In 2020, there's going to be Bitcoin seized by government, and those miners are going to help them. Why? Because only nodes, Section 5 of the white paper, matter, and nodes are miners. They validate blocks. The system is designed that way. Tone has this idea that you can't seize Bitcoin, which next year you'll see is completely wrong, and a whole lot of people will really, really be annoyed, but too bad. And he has this totally wrong idea about lightning scaling, so he's got this system that doesn't really scale, that has security vulnerabilities, and basically, S-words, all over Bitcoin. He says it can scale because every person is going to have petabytes of information at home. Yay! Now, that is a fair point. That I'm on board with, actually, as silly as Craig Wright is. Brock Pierce says that despite government's ability to seize property, he believes the tokenization of assets will continue to emerge with central banks and governments adopting digital assets of their own. Here's a quote. "The technology has applications for central banks and governments as well. I was one of the founders of Tether. Tether was my idea to put a real-world asset on the blockchain. Obviously, I've not been involved with that business since not long after its creation for liability reasons more than anything else. And unfortunately, it's not performed in the ways that I intended it to do. But it did accomplish its mission of demonstrating that there is demand for putting real-world assets on the blockchain," which I also think is a fair point. It's just funny to me that the guys that are maximalists, especially Tone Vaso, it's just like, my gosh, or even guys like why can you not recognize utility when it's staring you in the face? You know, someone like Tone Vase, to me, it's with how involved he is in crypto, it's pretty much unforgivable. I think he just has Bitcoin maximalist intentions no matter what. It doesn't matter what the rest of the facts are. He's had more than enough time to figure this out. He's had enough facts presented right in front of his face, and he just puts outright lies into the world. So forget him. Nouriel Roubini, he may literally just be completely uninformed as it pertains to Ripple and XRP. I don't know that he's ever discussed that, but if you're going to pretend that utility of a cryptocurrency can't be transformative globally, it's just, sorry, man, you're just wrong. I don't care how smart you are wrong on this. All right, take a look at this tweet from Crypto Dan. Does anyone else feel like this year's swell will only be about XRP? They are inviting members from the XRP community and just invited CEO Alex Holmes from MoneyGram, and they will use ODL, on-demand liquidity, at a large scale. Or maybe they have a huge announcement in store for us. And I will say, it is fascinating to me that for the first time, and I know it's only the third annual swell, but for the first time they're they're inviting XRP community members, people that have enough of a following that they could pretty reasonably, I say, be designated as XRP influencers for sure. And it's fascinating. So I wonder if there's some sort of purpose that we're going to see. I love that this is happening. It's awesome. But I wonder if there's some sort of purpose that we're yet unaware of. Can't wait for the swell event on the 7th and 8th of next month to occur. So let me go ahead and down to this piece. Is just an update on Ripple and XRP. I just kind of like the quote. This is from Daily Hodl. Ripple says MoneyGram CEO W. Alexander Holmes will highlight the impact of digital assets and blockchain technology at the company's upcoming Swell conference in Singapore, which I just highlighted. The two companies partnered in July, with Ripple buying $30 million of shares in MoneyGram at a premium of $4.10 per share, which even today, it's actually currently over that. So say what you will about the the inflated purchase price in the first place, but I think they knew what they were doing. Anyway, MoneyGram is implementing Ripple's on-demand liquidity solution, previously known as XRP, which utilizes XRP to power cross-border payments. In a recent earnings call, Holmes talked about the company's early experience with XRP, and here's a quote. "I am so excited to announce today that MoneyGram is now live and transacting on the Ripple XRP platform. We started executing trades earlier this week, and all signs point to this being a tremendously beneficial relationship for all parties involved. We are literally settling currencies in seconds. And to quote my friend Larry, this is really cool." And that was on the earnings call. So that's awesome stuff there. All right, last piece here. Crypto influencer says Bitcoin is more trustworthy than status quo, calls cryptography's asymmetric warfare a game changer. In an episode of the Tom Woods Show, Bitcoin core developer and chief technology officer of digital wallet Casa Jameson Lop explains his overall interest in Bitcoin from a societal perspective. "If one believes that all of the current monetary systems in place right now, regardless of government or organization, are man-made, one can conclude that Bitcoin is just another system, a newer and better invention. Lop outlines what he sees as its core advantages." And here's a quote now. "While Bitcoin never has and never will have any sort of fiscal policy to try to maintain a specific value, we do know that the emission schedule of Bitcoin is set and is practically impossible for that to ever be changed. It's technically possible, but the likelihood of that consensus to change is basically zero. And so I figured to myself, well, at the very least, it sounds like an interesting hedge to keep some small portion of my portfolio in Bitcoin, because it's just a little bit more trustworthy than these other systems that are controlled by people pulling levers willy-nilly on a whim." And the piece continues. Lop adds that there are many different reasons why Bitcoin may be valuable to someone, and that the value he sees in Bitcoin may not apply to other people, but Bitcoin and cryptography at large change the balance of power for everyone. And here's a quote. "When we use the term asymmetric warfare in the context of the digital age and cryptography, this is basically what we're talking about. The ability to defend your digital life at a very low cost to yourself, and to be confident that you are secure because you know mathematically that the cost for someone to attack you would be thousands or millions of times greater than the cost you have spent defending yourself. And that is when the game really starts to change." And of course, still, and fair points, of course, but still, it's just interesting to me that even somebody like this, when you're talking about Bitcoin specifically, you're talking about one simple use case, using Bitcoin in the place of money. And okay, fine, if that takes hold, you could argue the whole store of value thing. But to me, it's a bogus argument, store of value, unless it's actually getting used for something else. But that's what we're actually talking about here. And so, given that this doesn't scale, all these brilliant things he said, and it seems to be perfectly reasonable points for me to make, it just, given that you're talking about a technology in Bitcoin that does not scale and Lightning Network doesn't work, where's the confidence come from that this would have any staying power, even so? That's the question that I would ask. Anyway, that's it for this video. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!